Closer, please. Closer.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Room Went Dark, the true crime in film, where we discuss film, TV, and documentaries, all based on real events. I'm your host, Lorraine, and I'm joined by Amalie. Hey, Amalie.
Bonjour.
Sorry, the reason we're laughing is because, as you know, every week one of us covers one and the other one does it a following week. And I'm doing this one, but I convinced Amalie that she was, so she was panicking.
Yeah, I had a moment. there. I was like, you're kidding me. I was like, no, you definitely were going to do this one.
I know. I have to do what I have to do to entertain myself.
Yeah. That's also, I feel like this one's your bag, isn't it? I mean, I love Silence of the Lambs, but I think you're
Oh God, yeah, this is my favorite film of all time.
right.
And it has been since it came out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fair.
I just love this movie so much. So I basically told you that I was doing it. But one time we'll be doing one and you'll be like, I want to do that one. I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs. Well, it depends what it is. No, I'm only joking. I won't hog all the good ones. Um, but this week we are going with one that has a few different killers that were used as inspiration.
Mhm.
Uh, but we've already done the two-parter on Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was Ed Gein. Bundy is another one, but I think we're going to cover him with a different movie. But for
Yeah.
this one, we are going to focus on Gary Heidnik, and he's kind of, I feel, more of the lesser known serial killers, or doesn't get talked about the way you hear about Bundy and Gein and Ramirez and all these ones. Like, do you know what I mean? They kind of get mentioned, whereas I feel him, people don't tend to know who he is as much.
Yeah.
Um, and I always find that a bit weird that, I mean, at the end of the day, they're all bad with what they've done, but we kind of just focus on some more than the other, despite like this guy's crimes are despicable. Um,
Yeah.
but that film that we are going for is the 1991 psychological thriller horror, depending on what you think, and that is Silence of the Lambs. And the film was adapted from the novel of the same name by Thomas Harris in 1988, not 1998, because that would have been after. And it stars Anthony Hopkins as Dr. Hannibal Lecter, a psychiatrist with a penchant for human flesh, and Jodie Foster as FBI trainer Clarice Starlin. And Starlin is sent to Lecter to try and get information on a serial killer known as Buffalo Bill, who is played by Ted Levine. And it also stars Anthony Hild as a creepy doctor whose name I hasn't written down. What was his name again? What was his name again?
Hang on.
His name was Chilton, Dr. Chilton, and Scott Glenn as Jack Crawford, and Brooke Smith as Captain Martin. Oh my God, my words. Catherine Martin, who refuses to put the lotion on the body. Had you heard of Gary Heidnik yourself?
Yeah, yes. I think probably from watching Silence of the Lambs previously, I imagine the first time I watched it, and someone would have mentioned him. But yeah, again, he's one of the ones that I don't because he's not as widely talked about,
Mm.
um, or I guess portrayed in films and TV either. Like he just, yeah, there's not really. I don't know loads about. I know that he had quite like a crappy childhood. I think his dad was quite physically abusive, wasn't he? Um,
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, if you want to know a bit about him, he was born in Ohio on November 22nd, 1943. And like you said, his start in life wasn't great. His mother, I think, was an alcoholic. His parents got divorced, and he got sent with his brother off with the father. And like you said, his father was abusive and he was a bedwetter, and his dad would give him, grief for that. And his school life, not much better. He did join the army, but left due to getting discharged because of his mental health issues. And he was diagnosed as a schizoid personality disorder, worked for a nurse as a bit. And then
Oh,
he wanted to create this world where, through a religion. So he started his own church, Church of the Ministers of God in 1971. And apparently it did quite well. And it was registered, raising over what, around 500K. And he, you know the way you can be tax exempt if you register as a church. You don't have to, which I always find very strange. They don't
oh.
have to pay the taxes.
No, we pay the
Um,
tax.
yeah, exactly. We do. We're suckers that have to pay our
Oh, I
taxes.
don't, I mean, that's in the UK. I don't know if that's in America, but yeah, a percentage
Yeah.
of our taxes go to the church in the UK.
Do they?
Yeah. That's really upset you now, isn't it? Yeah, as far as I'm aware, I don't know if it's still, I'm sure, I think it does still, but yeah, it is very small, but no one knows about
Bastards.
it.
Oh no, no, I totally disagree with that because anyway, that would be a whole rant, so I'm not going to get into it. Um, he was a guy that obviously knew how to manipulate people if he managed to get them to give us this money and to join his church. And this also enabled him to kidnap and torture six African American women. This was in the 80s, and it was a time where, and maybe this is why he's not discussed as much, because when we're talking about other serial killers, the girls that they're killing, especially when it's women, are usually white.
Of
So
course.
that gets talked about more,
Yeah.
is very unfair. And
Yeah.
these women were sex workers, which obviously, again, is something that police don't tend to want to look into as much. Again, wrong, because there was a couple of chances where he was called out to police about, there's a smell and all this kind of stuff because and I suppose this is where you kind of get the Buffalo Bill thing from. He had a basement that he turned into this like place, torture place where he would bring these women. The conditions were disgusting. They had to do everything down there. Apparently, he would make them. They'd have to like use a hole in the floor to go to the bathroom, and then if they were naughty, as he put it, or bad, he would fill it with water so they were standing in their own stuff, and he would
Oh,
make them do stuff to each other. They would barely be fed, and he murdered two of the women, and apparently they were used as food. And he just basically wanted to have babies with all these women and have this big, I think he wanted like the perfect race, which would be mixed race. And how it all came out is basically one of the girls that was there, Josefina Rivera, she kind of got on his side and he ended up trusting her enough to let her go home and visit her family. And
wow.
she called the cops, and that's how they got caught. And I did see a documentary about how some of the women kind of have a bit of a problem with her because they don't quite see it the way she saw it. I think while her getting out, her plan was, I'm going to get this guy on my side. I'll do whatever it takes. Then I can get out and I can save everybody. They kind of saw it as, um, she's screwing us over and we're getting hurt and punished and she's trying to be his friend. But they also see that she helped them get out. But I think
Yeah.
obviously, it's a really tough one. But he was finally caught and executed in July 6th, 1999 at the age of 55.
99. Jeez.
Yeah, so I get that, where they got that from with this because I think with the Ted Bundy bit, I get it's more he used his tactics, like Buffalo Bill used his tactics to get women into his car by going, "Help me, I've got an injured arm." Something
Yeah.
Bundy did. Geen obviously plays a massive part because of, the skin and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the way Buffalo Bill dresses up as a woman, all that kind of stuff. But because we've already covered him, we didn't want to do it for this. So I think
Oh.
Heidnik was the only way to go. So tell me about this movie. Do you like it?
Do I like it? I love it. Yeah, it was a real joy, a real joy. It was a real joy watching Silence of the Lambs. I like as a film, like I know we've just been
Yeah,
talking about, the serial killers behind I guess it's so weird using the word inspiration, isn't it,
I
for a
know. I
movie when you talk
know.
about serial killers, but I guess yeah. And yeah, it still holds up now. Like it's just so good. Like I feel like if they'd put anybody else in either those two main characters
Mm.
with Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, like it just wouldn't have worked as well. Like it just yeah. I have a lot to say about it, but it is really just
Yeah,
really
and they
fantastic.
did have other people. I think I think I heard a story that Gene Hackman bought the rights to it, but
Right.
felt it was too and was going to, be in it and all that kind of stuff, but felt it was too dark. And apparently he got his money back for it. Michelle Pfeiffer was going to do Clarice Starling, but she just found it too dark. But there's an actor in it called Scott Glenn. He plays Jack Crawford, and he spent a lot of time with John Douglas, who is obviously, him and so Robert Keppel, and he was in the FBI as well. Him
Right.
and John Douglas were kind of the whole thing that started off the profiler. And So Scott Glenn spent a lot of time with this guy, and he actually didn't go back apparently for the second one because
Right.
he just found it all too much because he watched a lot of the tapes of torture and women being murdered and stuff like that. And it was just something that he couldn't get out of his head, which I
Yeah.
understand, and when you listen to people like John Douglas and the stuff that they've gone through, it does sound a lot. But it was one of these things where the FBI actually, heard about this and let them come to Quantico, which is the
Right.
headquarters of the FBI.
Right.
Um, and Jonathan Demme was like apparently thinking he's going to walk into all these like corner offices, but this was literally like he said 60 feet below ground their offices. They were kind
Yeah.
of just shoved, until it became a bit bigger, I suppose. And there was a lot of cooperation from the FBI while making this because they were trying to get women to join.
Right.
And obviously they see Clarice Starling
Yeah.
and they they were thinking, well, they see her and that'll make him want to join, and then she spent time with the FBI kind of trying to learn how women do work in there. So there was a lot of involvement with the I don't know if there was with so much with Anthony Hopkins because I've seen before that he kind of just goes, "Oh, I've got a film. I'll read the script. Right. Show up on the day." Like he doesn't really go into I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I heard him say it or I heard someone else say it, but apparently that's how he is. Whereas she got a bit more involved, and so did Scott Glenn. And
Yes.
I can only imagine. I mean, to me, it sounds like a dream thing to do, but that's because I haven't been that in it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's probably a bit easier for me to see to say that. So what did you think of like uh Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster in those roles? Like,
I thought I actually thought I found the simplicity of Hopkins
mm,
acting just brilliant. Like that first scene when she sort of shows up and she walks down the corridor and it sort of just pans round into his cell and he's just stood there so rigidly and like calm but so fucking menacing. And
yeah,
you're just like, fuck.
I
Um,
I think that's the thing, isn't it, with him? It's like she you hear this story about this guy and because you're walking down and everyone they're walking past just seems like they're off their heads, but in the
mm,
way that you expect someone down there to be carrying on. But with
yeah,
him, he's just like standing there, hello. Like, do you know what I
so
mean? It's like,
calm. Yeah.
yeah. And I suppose that's what makes him so menacing is the fact that he is so calm. Because remember when he says, so she obviously, I think the start of the whole thing shows very much how Clarice is looked at by men.
Yes.
Like because Demi does that thing obviously as well with the center of the screen and how you feel like they're looking at you.
Yeah.
But she basically the whole way through, she's either on her own or stared at by men, standing next to men, trying to, make men feel more comfortable with like Chilton, for instance, when he tries to ask her to go out and she's like, oh, if I hadn't let you walk me down here, I would have missed your company. She's trying to please them basically, like, to get what she wants. She knows it's
Yeah.
bullshit. He knows it's bullshit, but
Yeah.
she does it. But then she goes down here and you're expecting all these, this crazy guy And the weird thing is, he kind of comes across as the only one that really speaks to her in a more respectful manner and is
Yeah,
honest with her. I don't feel like anybody else is. He seems to be the only one that is.
that was actually one of my points for this podcast was that I noticed that actually the most respectful man in the whole entire film was him
Yeah.
in regards to the way that he spoke to her. You know, he has a little moment later on where he says something really creepy to the senator, but in regards to his conversations with her, he's always really respectful compared to the other men that are constantly kind of just like overstepping boundaries and making things uncomfortable. And yeah, I think that was an interesting way um to an interesting kind of aspect to put into the film. This idea is that actually he's quite sort of respectful and
Yeah.
he's creepy, but like pleasant's not the right word. Yeah, I don't know how to
No,
explain it.
I know what you mean because he's not like this. It's just hard to kind of, and I think we do get this sometimes with serial killers. And I always say it about Edmund Kemper, who did despicable things. But whenever I watch him talk, you're kind of like, how could you can't put the two together? But you hear about that, don't you? Like,
Yeah,
about, oh, but he was so nice and they were this, that, and the other family man or whatever it is about whoever. And then you see some and you're like blatantly like, yeah, I cannot even look at you. And I
mm,
think he kind of comes into the bit where you're like, by talking to him, you're kind of looking at him going, it doesn't match.
yeah,
He's so polite,
yeah,
and he doesn't want to, you know, almost like with the senator, it sounds more like he's being a bit of a cheeky chappy rather than damn right rude. You know
mm,
what I mean? He's just trying his luck, and getting the last dig in almost. Whereas with
yeah,
but with Clarice, it's very much, and she's so young. Maybe he thinks, I can teach this girl something. I can manipulate this girl because this woman, because she's a lot younger than me. Because when she tries to give him that questionnaire, he's like,
yeah,
no, 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 you did this and the, embarrassing thing with Migs and, this kind of stuff. But she's honest with him as well. Apart, I
yeah,
mean, obviously there's the odd lie here and there, but at this beginning bit, because she says what happens with Migs, and that's, you
yeah.
know, an
He tells her
embarrassing
that
thing.
though, doesn't he? He says,
Yeah,
"Be honest, because I'll
yeah,
know." And
yeah.
even in that first bit where he's in there straight away with the kind of intensity and the sort of not threatening, but just sort of intimidation, where he's like closer, please, and he's like
Closer.
closer.
Yeah. But then he's offended that she's been sent there because she's not real FBI, as he calls it. But
Mm,
she holds her own there because she's like, look, basically, you're talk to me or you won't. So she doesn't, I mean, she looks a bit like, kind of shit, what am I doing? But at the same time, as we see it, probably because she's had to do it her whole, experience within the FBI, is she's really good at holding it together. And like when we see that scene where she cries by her car, which she said is what she got from the woman that she was with when she was training for getting into the film, the
mm,
FBI agent. She does it away. She doesn't let any of them see because
yeah,
sometimes we all need to take a moment for ourselves and we don't need to do it in front of everyone. And I think that kind of also shows that this is a lot and she does need a little bit of a release and it must be difficult doing something like this, especially in this particular field and being female and being so young and going down into that dungeon, basically.
yeah, absolutely. I think that sometimes that ability to be able to take yourself away and have a little cry in private, as a female in a very, very male dominated,
Mm,
profession, you can't be seen as, that idea of, crying is weakness,
yeah,
she can't break down in front of because immediately she'll be
yeah.
seen as too fragile or
Must be time of the month.
incompetent. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Um, And I think as well, because when you see these male dominated places and they're kind of looking at her like this, like almost like, what is she doing in here? But also, oh, she's a bit of all right. It's kind of a combination of the two. It shows more how weak they are because they can, like, I think Jack Crawford, I think he likes her and I think he respects her, but he also doesn't give her credit in the sense that when they go to check that body that's been pulled out of the water, he tries to talk to her. He's like, talks to the guys, but not in front of her. But she
Mm.
again calls him out on it and she goes, it matters. They see you talking. Because he's like, what really bugged you that I did that? So, like, while I think Jack Crawford is kind of a bit better, he still needs to be told, look,
Yeah.
you either want me to do this or not. Don't in front of a bunch of blokes.
But it shows that they have a relationship where she can challenge him on it, which I thought was interesting because
Yeah.
normally I don't that even now I think quite honestly in police force like there will be some women that work in the police force that wouldn't dare challenge their immediate superiors on anything.
Yeah, I think yeah, there is. I think a lot of that though comes down to who you are, because some people obviously will say
Yeah.
more than others. And I think though we tend to pick our battles more. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
very
It's like,
smart about it.
but the sad thing is as well is we also think I've got to say, if I say this, like if you want to go up and have a go, for God's sake, why didn't you say to me, why did you do that? Like they'd be like, all right, calm down, this
Yeah,
type of thing. Whereas she's able,
hysterical woman.
exactly hysterical, it's when they're punching holes in the wall, that's fine. Like, do you know what I mean? Because they're mad. But when she does, I think everything she does is very like to get her exactly what she needs. And I don't think it's manipulation. I think it's survival. If I go in
100%.
here acting this way because, it is the world that she's in, and especially back then, it was a long time ago. Um, I think everything she does is, which is like John Douglas when you think about it, because John Douglas was very much one of these people where he would do things. And like, for instance, a story with him and Richard Speck, where so Richard Speck murdered 8 nurses in one night and basically said that he slept with all of them, raped all of them, but he didn't. He slept with one of them. And John Douglas went in and goes, basically to him, oh, thanks a lot for, taking all these women from us. You thought you'd have left for them for us as well. Like, oh, but he used a lot more vulgar language and it was a lot more aggressive. And Speck turned around and said to him, Jesus, you're even more crazier than I am. But that got him then to talk. Now, John Douglas didn't think that at all. But
Yeah,
he
yeah.
goes in and he goes, it's not about me. It's about how can I get these people to talk to me? So he would talk about different experiences with different, like Manson as well, like was an interesting one and stuff like that. But it got him what he needed. And I think that she's like that. I
Mm,
just do the job. If it gets me what I want,
yeah.
you know, um, and I
But
think that, go on.
he sort of, I think this is with Lecter though, he knows this. Like he
Yeah.
sees through all of that
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of, strategic manipulation because he is a master of it.
Hmm.
And, even towards the end of the film, you see him, basically kind of saying to her, look, this isn't just about you wanting to save this girl. This is about, it isn't a purely altruistic
Mm.
motive for her. There's, different aspects behind it as to why she feels that she needs to save this girl.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I know what you mean. Like, because are you kind of going back to like the whole thing about her father and the lamb and going to because her father killed himself and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's sort of like because she has there is this, they have the conversation, don't they?
Yeah,
It's like towards the end and the where they're talking about the trying to save the lamb.
yeah.
And it sort of feels like almost like Catherine's the lamb, she's sort of trying to, I guess,
Mhm.
rewrite that experience in some way. But it means that it's not necessarily she's not doing it because she's worried about, I mean, obviously she is worried about the girl and she wants to get her out safely, but she also wants to catch Buffalo Bill because it's, the idea that he says, will the like the la- have, the lamb's going to stop screaming or whatever it is.
if
Um,
she captures him.
yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose from that we can lean on to the whole thing with Catherine. Um, I mean, I thought that she was, a great choice in casting. I thought she was brilliant, and then how, he captures her, and she is a bit kind of like, "Oh, you want me to get in the back of your van?" type thing. Um, but I think that relationship between her and Buffalo Bill, because it kind of chops and changes. She goes obviously from the pleading, my mom's got money and all this kind of stuff stuff,
Mm.
and then she's screaming and stuff. Um, and there's a lot of crying and whimpering and the lotion. That was a great scene, the lotion on the body and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
then she really
Ocean
thinks,
at the basket.
yeah, and I think she knows that she's not getting out of there unless obviously someone comes to save her. Like she's not getting out of here because I think to go to such extremes, um, to hide someone away like that, because in America you do have a lot of these basements, don't you? Like, and I mean his
Mm.
is like an underground house. It's so big. It's
Through a
insane.
maze, isn't it? Yeah.
And I suppose, and because they're underground and you've got cars going over, and it probably would drown out some of the noises. And the same with Hynek, he used the same kind of setting. I don't think it was as big, but you don't think you're going to get out of that because why would someone go to such extremes to keep you if there wasn't some ill intent, you know?
Mm.
So I do like how she kind of goes through all these different stages of pleading with him. And as we can see from him, it puts the lotion on the body. He doesn't think of her
Yeah.
as a human, but then the mother's like, speak to Catherine, 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 because she wants to show that he is a human. But I think the thing about Buffalo Bill is he doesn't come across as someone that's particularly angry. It's just like, I want to make stuff, and this is the materials I need. I feel like the killing of them isn't the main thing. It's what he needs from that.
Yeah.
Is
He wants
that's
a
not
skin suit, doesn't he? He
yeah,
wants
that's
his,
not
yeah.
the enjoyment. I mean, I may be wrong, but I feel like that was his way of getting what he needed because
Yeah.
he wasn't down there beating her or raping her and all doing all this stuff. And I'm not saying what he was doing was was good, but he just didn't seem there for at all. He just in his own little world, and I'm
Yeah, I
gonna
guess
get
there was
re
a different motive, wasn't it? It didn't feel
yeah,
like it was some sort of um a lot with serial killers, there's this kind of a need for like power and dominance,
yeah,
and to um feed off of that kind of hopelessness and
yeah,
panic and fear in well, usually women. But with him, it's sort of like, he purposely picked women that are around about size 14.
yeah,
He'd put them in a well, he'd starve them because what he
yeah,
needed actually was for them to lose weight
yeah,
whilst they're rubbing their lotion on their skin and getting
yeah,
nice and, ready for his skinning. Um, there was very much like you said, it wasn't necessarily about the women
mm,
at all. They were just objects
yeah.
that he
They
needed
were
to create
material.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
literally material.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So there wasn't all of that sort of misogynistic. I mean, it's in there, obviously, because he just sees them as objects, you
yeah,
know. Um, but yeah, a different, very different kind of form of, because obviously the police are trying to work out like why he's doing this. Like, what's it that they know that there's a serial killer, but they're like, well, what's the intention, motivation? They're trying to sort of work it out because it probably does look very different to the usual. All they've got to go on is like, well, he likes women that are size 14,
yeah,
you know? And
yeah.
actually,
Yeah, you got
that's
to, and I suppose that's why talking to him, because the thing is, Lecter doesn't give it away very easy,
no,
obviously,
he gives
and I,
little like
tidbits
cryptic
here and there,
clues.
yeah, for her
Yeah.
to figure out. And I suppose And I suppose in his defense, um, he's down here. Nobody really bothers him apart from Chilton is the worst kind of doctor. You hear about these types of places and, or, institutions, and you always hear the horrible stories about doctors who are just like this guy's in it for himself, because he acts as though he's basically trying to solve it and stuff like that, but he's just a piece of shit. Um, so having this new person come down and talk to him, not talk at him, do you know what I mean? And she's
Yeah.
not trying to get something out of him about him. She wants knowledge from him about somebody else. So it's
Mm.
not like she's analyzing him. She's just like, look, give me your knowledge about this other person. I don't talking about, apart from, well, no, you ate yours. Like, she doesn't really talk so much about what he did. It's about what can you do for me to get, what can we do to get this guy
Mm.
caught?
But
Uh,
for that, she has to play the game. She has,
yeah,
it's like, well, if you want information from me, then I want information from
yeah,
you, and
exactly.
it's going to be personal.
Exactly. But you see that like with like Mindhunter when
Mm.
they're chatting with them and it looks like a conversation like, yeah, all right, let's have a chat, do you want a
Mm.
sandwich? It's just such a bizarre thing to do. And I always thought it must be really hard knowing what these people have done, and then you have to go in there and be like nice, you know
Yeah, yeah,
um and I think she does a really good job, and I think he does kind of obviously help her get there in the end. But because she says that he's not, what is it he says, he's not a transsexual, he's a, I can't remember now, does he want to,
yeah. I can't remember what
oh
it
no,
was
he don't, no,
now.
no, that's it, he had, she, because he said to her, look into, obviously if we use any wording that isn't, because they say transvestite obviously, and that's not a word people use these days, so we're only using certain words for the purpose of
Yeah.
this. um but yeah, he says to her, look into people that are looking into gender reassignment surgery, because he's
Mm.
probably looked into a few, so that's what it was.
Yeah,
So he is giving her these little clues.
yeah,
um and so yeah, she is getting there, but he's making her work for it. And I suppose, that's what they all do, because they're getting something a bit different. You're getting to come out of your cell, or you're getting to have someone different chat to you. So they want to make it last rather than just go, oh, it's probably your man, like stuff like this, type of thing,
yeah,
you know, because they're not exactly known for being good, decent people.
yeah.
Why change now? But they probably think they're doing something good. Look at me helping you,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, but I think with Lecter, he knows that it's not, it's all a game, right? They're trying to extract information from him that they need to
Yeah.
save a girl. And he's like, well, you're not getting it for free, I'm gonna make you work for this. You know, Clarice is essentially kind of like used as it's like a cat with a toy, like a cat with a mouse or something, he knows how to work her. She's aware of it and she knows what's
Yeah.
going on, and she's like, fine, I'll play the game. Like I will give you these bits of
Yeah.
information, and he does it in such a surgeon-like precision, um, which is it's purposely meant to be that, right? Because I think he got the inspiration from like a Mexican surgeon,
Mm.
apparently, um, for Lecter, that there is this just very calm sort of very sort of attention to detail kind of way that he operates when he's kind of trying to pull that information from her,
Yeah.
But she is also a bit like that as well. And I think that's the thing. This is why they can actually do these exchanges, because in some ways she has had to be very strategic and very careful and very conscious about the way that she acts and behaves, and you know and he does genuinely have, I think, some respect for her. Like he does.
I
And
think
there
he
was,
likes her.
yeah, I think he
I don't
does.
mean
Yeah.
sexually. I think
No,
because at
no.
the end, when because obviously he escapes and he says, The world, I'm never, don't worry, I'm not going to call on you because the world is a better, more interesting place with you in it.
Yeah.
And I think that that shows through it, because it was, she turned around and she was like, oh, he wouldn't basically do anything to me because he'd consider that rude.
Yeah, he would
And
consider it
that's a
rude.
strange
Yeah.
way to put it, isn't it? Oh, he's not going to
Yeah.
murder me because he'd think that was rude,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, so I think their relationship, like you said, is like more respectful in the sense because yes, he is using her for some time and all that kind of stuff, and she's playing the game, but she gets used a lot more by the FBI. Like it always baffles me, like how she's just thrown into this with she's not real FBI. She's not been, she's still in training,
Yeah.
but yet she's the only like I suppose as well there's not many women in the FBI and they feel like he won't speak to a man as much because a bloke will
Yeah.
go in there a bit more or like, tell me what you know type thing.
But if you think about her profile, one, she's a
Yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
and he's, that her like superior is probably like, well, we've thrown a load of men in there,
Not worked.
and it's not
Yeah.
worked very well. So they've gone for a woman, but don't forget as well that she doesn't have any family. There's
No.
no parents to speak of that she's in
No.
relationship with. There's no one particularly that she's close with, so that there's no kind of bargaining chip. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no possible sort of threat to any of
Yeah.
her loved ones, so to speak. And she is just very calm, very collected, almost sort of. I think she's meant to appear sort of slightly not naive, but just very pure,
Yeah.
you know?
I think she is because, well, like any career, you mean, you see it is when people go into a career, so to speak, at the beginning, they're all full of like, I can do this. I want to do this. I'm going to work hard, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously as time goes on, not so much. And I think throughout the whole film, apart from maybe one little bit, it's all just very serious and dark and stuff like that. And the only time we kind of see a bit of a glimmer of a smile is when, she's going to talk to those guys about the moths. And she's like, are
Oh.
you flirting with me? And, this type of thing. And we see a little bit of, and that's really it. But the rest of it is
Even
her
that was
just,
kind of creepy as well,
it
though. The
was
way he's
creepy,
kind of
but it
like
was,
leering at her.
yeah, yeah, no, it was creepy. And the way, yeah, because I think the way the camera was on his face didn't help because he looked like he was going to, go for
Yeah.
it. But I think it's weird. Like it's one film where it just doesn't let up.
Yeah.
You never feel comfortable
No.
with it. You're sometimes like there's sometimes that when the cameras look at you, you're almost kind of looking behind you, like, because what are they staring at? And I know it's kind of Demi's thing. He did it with Philadelphia, but not as much, I don't think. But with this, they really do. But yeah,
Mm.
I think she's got like what you said, so much to offer because she doesn't have a lot to lose, suppose, so to speak, because it's just her and she is hungry for this.
Yeah, well,
That's
she
one
wants to
thing.
be
Yeah.
a competent,
Yeah.
she's definitely working her way up through the ranks
Yeah.
as much as she can. She's an eager sort of employee, isn't she? But also because she wants to do a good job.
Yeah.
There's an element to her that like the need to have this competency, which I don't know whether that comes from a lack of competency from authoritative figures in her life, for example, and she's sort of creating that safety around herself by
Yeah.
being this competent person. Or even to that, when she's talking about, I tried to save the lambs, and I was even if I could save one, but it was too heavy, and she ends up having to sort of like essentially, it gets taken back. It's sort of like a need to have control, over her own life and her own existence. I did like the bit where Catherine, when, at the end and Catherine's been saved and Catherine leaves the house
With the little dog.
with little doggy underarm.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like that kind of, she gets to take the dog with her. Clarice couldn't take the lamb, but Catherine gets the
The
gets
dog.
the
Yeah.
dog. I
Yeah,
really
I know.
liked it.
I think that whole scene, like when she knocks on the door and you get that thing where the SWAT team is at the wrong house, but it's all kind of happening at the same time. And then
Yeah.
he opens the door and he's really got that Jane Gum, as they called him. She's like asking questions, and he's like, "Wait, wasn't that big fat girl?" Like, do you know what I mean? The way he kind of talks like that,
Yeah.
and he just seems a bit simple and stuff like that. But I think as she goes in, and then because Clarice actually goes in because she's going to get a number of someone, and you can see her like not over the top looking, but she's kind of just like scanning the place, and then she sees that thing and realizes it's him.
Yeah.
But then that whole thing like shows, I don't know, is it bravery or stupidity when, she's like shouting for Catherine, and we can hear Catherine losing her shit because obviously, as I said, we've seen all those things. And then when Catherine really takes it to the next level is when she's like, I'm going to break your dog's leg. And that's when we see him in the anger phase that
Yeah.
because he doesn't want anything to happen to the dog. But she's down there and with the dog and screaming. But then she's screaming at her, "You fucking bitch, like, don't leave me." Which you can get because it's pure fucking desperation. And this is the first,
Yeah.
bit of there's a chance here. But help is on the way. But it's just this little Clarice Starling, like with her gun in a place that she doesn't know. And that's the thing. They're on his territory now. He
Yeah.
knows every step. And then he puts that's the bit that gets me the most is when he puts on those night vision goggles.
God, it's horrible. That last like
Oh my God.
scene,
Because,
and it is literally it was sort of because I mean I've said this before, but like being in like a horror maze or something like that,
mm,
or like when you're playing laser tag when you're a kid with much older kids, like,
yeah,
there's just sort of like you think, oh gosh, you can't see anything, and he's
no,
literally just watching her and following her around like a creep, and you just think like but this is the other thing, right? He's not. At no, but they have plenty opportunity
yeah,
to attack her, and he doesn't, right?
the hand goes
Because she's
out.
not size 14.
Yeah,
She's so good with her. Um, yeah, and then the hand comes out. It's just like, and she knows he's there. She can sense that he's in the room,
yeah,
but she
but
can't see
not
him,
quite
and she's
sure.
sort of
Just
just, oh, blah. It's horrible. Yeah.
yeah, she just yeah, when I see the hand go, because how slowly he does it. Again,
Mm,
that's the thing I suppose about him and Lecter, really. They're not they're not chaotic. They're not manic. They're not all over the place. They're just very I don't know, they're just very still a lot of the time. Nothing they do seems to be seems to have any sort of urgency. Like
yeah.
even with Buffalo Bill taking his time to get Catherine the way he wants her. He's not impulsive in that way.
No.
He scopes out who he wants, takes his time, gets them in quite an easy, slow fashion, brings them back in a, and I suppose it's like with Heineck, he got these girls, brought them back, took his time. You know what I mean? He killed two, but I think they were more of a nuisance for him. They weren't playing the game,
Yeah.
when he killed the girls. But um yeah, and I think that's the same with Lecter. Like I've if you've seen the TV show, I've seen some of it. Like the way he does it, like and the way he cooks the food, that's the people.
Yeah.
Um and I don't know, and I think that's scarier because that kind of brings us into the more everyday person that's just the nice guy, the calm
Yeah,
guy.
because
Oh,
you can relate to
yeah,
that
yeah,
person.
yeah,
There's enough. It's a strange one, isn't it? Because it's sort of like, well, this person feels very much like a human being and doesn't at the same
yeah,
time. Because there is this kind of level of I guess superiority about Lecter. He
yeah,
very much looks down on other human beings as
mm,
being sort of like less intelligent, less
yeah.
everything. Like he's sort of up here
Oh
somewhere.
God, yeah,
Um, and quite honestly, he's disgusted by humankind quite a lot of the time, I think. I just get
yeah,
that vibe from, that he's just sort of, it's just like, God, we're a disgusting species, and sort of
yeah,
tries to set himself apart from that. And you can tell, he's got this incredibly high IQ. He's very intelligent, very, very smart, um, and incredibly calm. They say the conversation that Clarice has before she first goes into to see him, and they're at the bottom of the steps, and he shows her the picture and says, this is what happened, and his heart rate didn't
yeah.
go
I didn't
past
even. Yeah,
80. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, he's definitely not like other killers. And I suppose when it comes to horror films, our killers are usually, we think of, Ghostface and Michael Myers and very over the top gore and,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, and actually, true serial killers are quite often not
No,
like that.
no,
They are quite
no,
calculated and
because
very,
because I think you get your some serial killers and they just want to be famous and they just want people, to know who they were and stuff like that are. And then you get ones who I think like Buffalo Bill and Lecter. I mean, obviously they both got caught and stuff, but they got caught because people worked out who they were. It
Mhm.
wasn't because they were getting sloppy or chaotic or, losing their shit, you know? It was
Mm.
the fact, and like they said, like some of these serial killers, they want to talk, they want to say it all, but Lecter, they couldn't get anyone to talk to him. No one would, he
Yeah,
wouldn't open up to anyone. So, like, while with her, he was happy to do it. It's not like he was doing it to everybody else, you
yeah,
know? So, yeah, some of them are just, they say there's active serial killers now. I mean, there's got to be, you know. I don't know if there's any in like sometimes I think in the UK and America there probably definitely is because it's such a big place. And I think in America you could because you can go from state to state and all that kind of stuff. But then they do talk to each other more now through technology. But sometimes here because you hear about stories like there was a time where men kept going missing, getting pushed into falling into this river canal in Manchester, you know.
mm.
I think it was around the gay scene there, and you see things like that. And then there was I can't remember what it was, but recently there was this boys like men just going missing,
Well, we've
and
had that
you're
recently. Yeah, it's
yeah
been
recently
down in
haven't we?
like
Yeah, because that
Bristol and
Jack,
even in Wales. Yeah,
that
and
guy
there's just
Jack
these young
in
young
Bristol,
lads.
and I think to myself, is there someone out there taking these men? You know,
Well,
because
you do start to think that because you sort of
yeah,
like, well, this is like the fifth young lad
yeah,
that's gone missing now, and no one seems to be sort of. I mean, obviously there are people
no.
panicking, but yeah,
Well,
it's just
with
really bizarre.
that lad in Bristol, what was his name? Jack. What was his last name? Jack O'Sullivan. Um,
Yeah,
he has been missing ice for what since 2nd of March 2024. But I think the parents are even struggling to get like information and stuff. I've read. I don't know if that's still the case. And like underneath him, there's a picture of like quite a few men, all men. Have you seen them?
yeah,
And you're just like, yeah, I feel like where's the urgency for these guys? You know,
yeah,
there doesn't seem to be much, and Jack O'Sullivan's family, like they really do keep going. Um, but yeah, I mean, this film I think really shows how terrifying the world is when it comes to these type of people because of how they behave, because you're sitting there confused by them and like, oh shit, if I didn't know they were doing this and we were, with Lecter, we went out for dinner, we think he was a lovely guy because we think of the monster as someone that's very obvious and in our face. I can tell you're a horrible person, you know? So when it's like this, because then as well, it makes you think about everybody that and it's not like I'm going around thinking people I know are off doing this, but you never know.
but you don't know, and I think that's the thing.
No.
You absolutely don't know. Obviously, you like you said, there are some that you sort of look at and you think, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But there are, I remember the woman that again went missing in Bristol. This was like years ago, and they suspected the I think it was the neighbor maybe or
Are you on about Joanna Yates?
yeah,
Yeah, it
and
was
that
her.
poor man
Yeah,
is
he got
yeah,
hounded, Chris Jeffries.
yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, the funny thing was with that, my someone I knew rented the apartment of Vincent Tabak, the guy that lived in it, and I stayed there for the night and I was like, this is
my
weird.
God.
Yeah, no, because I was friends with them, so I stayed there. But yeah, they said Chris Jeffries was lovely. And yeah, it was Vincent Tabak, the guy. I was thinking he was from like the Netherlands or somewhere.
He was
Um,
downstairs, was it? Or
Denmark or
was
something.
he like the friend's
No,
boyfriend?
so her apartment was here, and hit
Yeah,
that people can't see, but her apartment was like doors on the side, and his was around the back, and you could walk past it,
right.
that type of way. Um, but yeah, there was because I worked in the media at that time, and we covered that story massively. And I wasn't part of the people that, I was in the accounts. But yeah, that it was wrong what was done to him. And I think he got money for that, and he should have got money for it because
I
he
hope so. I
was
hope he's okay,
hounded.
because
He was hounded.
he was. But
Um,
it just goes to show, isn't it, that we think we have an understanding, probably from films and documentaries and things like that, where we profile someone as being, oh, they're definitely this
yeah,
or that.
yeah,
And actually, a lot of the series, like we've spoken about, Bundy, you know, I think who else there's a few of them that are sort of, you just wouldn't, they seem nice, approachable, charming characters. Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, I'm not sure. I must admit, if I think if I met Lecter while I was out and about, one, I don't think actually I would probably notice him, if I'm
But
honest.
you'd think he was like, if you were talking to him and the way he speaks, because he said he got that voice from um there was this thing called Hal. He was a computer, like back, maybe it was the 70s, I can't remember. And he
Right.
kind of got the voice from that because his voice is very
Okay.
robotic, like there's no real human behind that. But
Yeah.
you'd think he was a bit weird. Oh, I don't know about him. He's a bit weird. But you wouldn't go straight to
Straight to
what he
serial
does.
killer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that eats people, like, and
I
I
would
think,
probably just assume sort of autistic, or like, I gotta be careful maybe saying this, but like, yeah, maybe like neurodivergent in some way.
yeah,
I can say this because I am. So yeah, or yeah, just quiet, reserved, whatever, but you wouldn't.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone generally would jump to they're a serial killer, or you know.
No, no. But I think if anything, certain films show you that, which is this is one is you just can't really trust anyone.
You can't trust
You
anybody.
can't trust anybody. Um,
I disagree. I think you can trust people, but just not smart,
I don't
charming.
trust anyone 100%, put it that way.
Do you
But
not?
no, 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 I don't. I've never, no,
Not even your, not what about your partner?
no, God, no. No, I think to put all your faith in someone like that and don't get me wrong, it's not like I think he's off doing anything, bad and eating people for lunch. But um, no, I think, I personally think it's a bit foolish to put all your faith in a person to the point where you'd let yourself completely go to them, um,
It's
thinking that
fair
it's going
because,
to be perfect,
we're human beings. We're not perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
We do make mistakes, and
Yeah.
even the best, people do make silly
Yeah.
mistakes sometimes. So,
It's
yeah.
not, I suppose, with some people, it's not so much that there's no, oh my God, I don't trust that person. It's
Mm.
more, it's different for everyone. Like, I know what I can and can't do with certain people. And I just don't, like, I've got some mates who just can't keep their mouth shut. So I just don't tell them stuff. They're not necessarily
Yeah.
bad people. So I
Yeah,
just don't tell them
sure.
stuff,
Yeah.
but, would I leave my daughter with everyone I know? No. Like, do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I'd
that's
leave her
fine.
with you and Steve,
Oh,
but
good, that's
yeah, I trust
right.
you two, but like,
Yeah,
I
me too. I was
wouldn't.
like, I wonder if we're on the new list.
No, you're on the yes list. But yeah, so I think it's just I think you just have to be, especially nowadays with all this like social media and stuff. Um, I think you just have to be smart and really not. I don't think you should take everyone by their word. Put it that way. You know?
No, well, I mean, yeah, it sort of proves that you can't really. Like,
No, no, you can't.
especially, I mean, at the moment as well, especially when you just see how many men in the world, like there seems to be sort of like in my opinion, I think there's quite a bit of an uprising of just too much hate generally, but it does worry me about, people like Andrew Tate and the amount of followers that
Oh
he's had,
God,
and you just
Trump.
think, because I'm not surrounded by men
No,
like that
nor am I.
at all.
Nor am
So
I.
I in my world, I'm like, yeah, there's lots of lovely, wonderful men out there.
Yeah,
But then as soon as you step onto like social media, or you hear friends who are trying to date through like dating apps, you're just like, what? Oh my goodness,
yeah, yeah. I
scary.
think. Yeah, I think because yeah, no, I definitely think that's somewhere we need to be careful. But back then with this film, they didn't have all that. They just had good old fashioned. Shit, what's gone on? But not that it's funny, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, have you got anything else to add? Any other things you want to say?
No, not massively. I think the big thing for me about Silence and Lambs is just the just how well directed it was, and particularly with the sort of um the camera sort of,
Yeah,
with the kind of staring
the
down
way
the
he
lens.
shot. Yeah,
It's just a really great way of creating that kind of intensity, but also like intimacy, but in like a a kind of intimidating way. I don't know
yeah,
how hard that is for actors to have to film that. I have no
yeah.
idea.
Because well, I suppose because they're like looking at you, they're so used to not doing that. So it might, because they don't tend to make look into the camera like that.
Yeah.
Um, so it was probably hard to do that because you're so used to not being able to do that.
Yeah, and taught not to do that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Conditioned, isn't it?
And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's one of the things I liked about it is I love how it's shot. I just think the whole thing is just a great story and it's got kind of got it all for me. It's shot very well, great script, acting is exceptional. Like even the characters we don't like, it's all done really well.
Yeah.
And I think it gives you like this insight to how um the authorities deal with these types of people to try and get what they want. So it's not just a matter of like, oh, there's a guy killing people. Let's see if we can go find him. Like they're getting all, they're willing to go that extra step, I suppose, to go down and get information from him and send in someone so young because they've obviously exhausted all the other avenues.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like they took it seriously. I don't feel like Chilton took it seriously. I think he was just out for himself. But I
Yeah.
do feel like Jack Crawford and Clarice Starling, they genuinely wanted to save these people, to save Catherine.
Yeah.
Um, but I do also agree with you that there was a little bit of probably her own demon in there to try and save, you know?
Well, as there always is,
Yeah. And
nothing
that's
we ever
fine.
really do as human beings is completely altruistic ever. Even when we're helping
No, I,
people, we get a bit of
I agree
you
with
know,
that,
yeah, a
you
bit of
know?
a dopamine hit from being of service to other people. And
Yeah.
I think he was just trying to show her that I guess that they weren't that different in some
Mm.
ways.
And I don't think
Um,
people are. I think that we like to think we're this, that, and the other. And I'm not saying, obviously, I'm nothing like bloody, some of these serial killers, but, I have had times where I probably think in a way that I shouldn't. I just don't act on it. Like, do you know what I mean? And I think
yeah,
that's the difference is like, we're able to sometimes, not everybody, but like, sometimes if I do something that I'm like, no, Lorraine, you're the prick here, or you really shouldn't think like that, or you do think like that, but just take a step back type thing. I'm able to do that for myself. Whereas I think a lot of these guys are like, this is what I want, and I'm gonna do it whether you fucking like it or not. Like, do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, like I
Um,
said, it's a separation, it's a splitting off from
yeah,
their sort of
yeah.
their sense of humanity and I guess empathy. A lot of them
Well, they
don't
don't have
because
it.
they're in that kind of dark
Yeah.
triad area that with their personalities that the empathy is just not it's
I
not
always find it
this.
weird though when, because like obviously with Buffalo Bill, he's on his own. But I always find it weird when they have a family and children, and the children are like, but he was a great dad. And the wife was like, because they
Yeah.
always turn around and go, the wife knew. Did she? Your husband was off doing, it doesn't mean that she knew, because you can go there and treat them in such a way. And I think that's what makes it so sick is the fact that you are this one person at home, but then
Mm.
you need to go and do this other thing because you've got this other,
But
impulse.
also what do you do if you are that wife and you've got children with that person and you for some reason like find something in the house that I think your mind has to go to a place that says, oh, it's probably just this, because the alternative is, holy shit, this is my
Well,
husband's
yeah.
going out at night and he's killing, women
Well,
and I've
maybe,
got kids, and our brains are really clever at just sort
yeah,
of
because you have to shut down as well
blanketing
for
things.
survival, don't
Yeah.
you? And like, with BTK, he got caught doing some really fucked up stuff, but it could be explained away as just some really bizarre sexual things that he wanted to do. Like, I think his wife walked in and caught him with a mask on and tights strangling himself off the bathroom door. This type of thing. It was, I don't know if it was exactly that, but it was stuff along the lines. But if
But
I
even
saw,
then, you'd probably be just like, okay, interesting kink. Like,
yeah, but
I'm not
if,
getting involved.
yeah,
Like,
you knock yourself out, mate, but you probably, but
yeah, quite literally.
literally,
Yeah.
um, but you wouldn't go to what he did,
No,
and I think
when would
that's,
you ever jump to
yeah.
that? You just
But
wouldn't
then
naturally want
when
to
it,
believe it.
exactly, but then when it happens, you're then, oh, I remember this. Oh, I remember this. But I don't, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I mean, unless they blatantly know, like if you know somebody's doing something and you're not telling, I get you could be scared and all that kind of stuff, but you can't like let someone murder people. But, I think it's really unfair when people blame family members for not knowing. And another thing I think is really interesting. So when BTK got caught, his daughter was really like young. I think she was like a teenager or something. But now she's an adult, she's fair game and people can give her shit for it. And I always find that really weird. Like sometimes the parents do it while their kids are children. And
Yeah.
the poor family, this, that, and the other. But as soon as that child becomes an adult, then they get the blame and it's someone to blame and shout at because they can't shout and blame at the killer because they're in prison. They don't give a shit. Um, so they go for someone else and they go, and I always think that's so weird. Like, this girl was a kid when her dad was out doing this, and you're
Yeah.
blaming her now because she's over 18. That I
People
always
actually
find,
do that.
oh
Like,
God, yeah. You should watch the documentary on
sad.
the one the daughter did on BTK on Netflix. Um,
Gee,
yeah, she's had a lot of, but
that
she,
was that.
it just baffles me that people are that stupid that
Well, it's
they
horrendous
blame.
because those kids have got to live with that
Yeah.
legacy for the rest of their life. You imagine trying to
Yeah.
fucking date and your dad's the baby
Yeah. Oh,
killer.
exactly.
Like, well,
Exactly.
you're done for, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. But, I think these are things where, maybe we can do an episode on that. An episode I would like us
Yeah.
to do at some point is on hybristophilia, which is a really interesting topic when it comes to
Okay.
how women, you know, are with certain serial killers in a really like groupy, attracted
Yeah.
kind of way.
It's
I always
fascinating.
find that a really interesting topic. But
I might have to
yeah.
see if I can look into that and see if
Oh,
I
it's
can get some articles from
yeah. Look
clinicians
up
or
Richard
something.
Ramirez and the women that went for him when he was in jail.
Yeah, which we will be doing.
Which
I
we will
guess we're going
see.
to be
Yeah, actually, we
doing
can talk about that
soon.
next time.
So we're
Actually,
going to
that's
do
when we'll
Night
talk about
Stalker.
it. That's when we'll talk about it. But anyway, um, yeah, we're putting an end to this one because we've
It's probably gone over an hour.
yeah, I don't know how long it is. But yeah, so if you want, I think our next episode, like we said, we're going to talk about the Night Stalker, the documentary on Netflix. And if you want anything on us, we're on Instagram, TikTok, The Room Went Dark. And I've just set up a Facebook page for The Room Went Dark. So you can go over there. I'll get some stuff on there because there's nothing really on there at the moment. And you can email at theroomwentdark@gmail.com. And yeah, let us know how you think of the episodes. And we will chat to you again very soon. Bye.
Goodbye.
There you go.